Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zeckthar,
And I'm Yusken.
and we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, and this week we'll be looking into everyone's favorite greenskins, the orcs.
Indeed, Zeckthar, the orcs, who love nothing more than a good scrap and some good old-fashioned crumpin'. Join us this month as we discuss the biology of the orcoid species, their effect on the other species, some funny stories, and of course, notable characters.
Of course, Yusuf. But to our dear listeners, if you like our stuff, please subscribe, follow, like, and comment. And if you wish to help Bob, you can click the support podcast button on any of our descriptions on Spotify.
Quite right, Zeckthar. If you like what we do, don't hesitate to plug in on Spotify. We wish to keep this free and without ads. So if you find folks truly enjoy this, you can help. If you only donate to Bob on our Spotify channel for 99 cents a month, we can continue doing our stuff without those hated ads. Now, mind you, if you wish to do more, feel free. But this is all we ask, just 99 cents. Well, Zeckthar, let's get into it, shall we?
Well, Yuksen, I figured this week we could discuss a little bit about the less talked about in orcoid societies. You know, those little guys who keep the orc ecosystem up and running. Like I mentioned last week, the entire basis of the orcoid ecosystem starts with the Squigs, then snotlings who cultivate the Squigs and the fungus they feed on, followed by the Gretchin to build the greenskin settlements, and finally the orcs themselves. So I figured this week we could follow the same pattern.
Sounds good, Zeckthar. Well, what are you going to tell us about the Squigs?
Well, the Squigs are the simplest known form of orcoid life, and there are many different types of Squigs, each generally filling some functional or utilitarian role in the orc ecosystem. There are many types of Squigs, but each can be generalized into a single variety, such as edible, musical, hair, medicinal, parasite hunting, face eaters, pets, buzzing, and paint Squigs. Well, we'll get into some of those. But some, like the face eater types, are a little more than snapping fanged mouths on legs. Squigs naturally grow and breed within the cesspits of the orc settlement, subsisting on orc refuse. Tending the Squigs is the duty of the low-caste orcoids known as the snotlings. Well, there are many different types of Squigs. I figured we could just simply talk about some of our personal favorites. And I believe one of yours, Yuksen, is the Squiggoths.
Why, yes, because they're the biggest of the different types of Squigs. They can range from being a Leman Russ battle tank size to small Titan.
Well, what about a Colossal Squig?
That's
I thought they were the
Squiggoth.
biggest. Oh, it's a type of Squiggoth? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Generally, there's 3 different types of categories for Squiggoth, being there's the big ones, the gargantuan, Squiggoths, and the Orchiosauruses.
The what?
Orchiosauruses.
Oh, what the heck is that?
It's just basically a giant transport squig.
Well, do they have like 2 or 4 feet or?
No, this thing's meant to hold like at least 20 orcs on it.
No. Do they have 2 or 4 feet?
Oh, 4 feet.
Okay. So they're okay.
Squiggoths have in general 4 feet.
Squiggoths? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Squigs. I'm like, well, most of the Squigs I know of anyways, they only have like 2 feet. But
well, except for the squig hogs, which are also used as modes of transportation / cavalry.
So I'm assuming the Squiggoths anyways are used for, like you said, transportation. Are they used also as like cavalry?
Squiggoths can be used for generally transportation or just mowing things over. I mean, they are giant monsters.
Right. Okay. So are they big enough anyways that like, do the orcs ride them into battle, or is it that they're so huge anyways that you don't even really need orcs on top of them? They just kind of lumber forward and start eating things.
Well, I'm pretty sure the ones that are size of a small Titan generally are just things that you may just want to have run free, basically.
And those are the Colossal Squigs?
They're just, I don't know. They don't specify what the size of these different ones are technically.
Okay, so
part of that is because of the fact that it is orc society, so they don't really categorize these.
Well, they kind of do. I mean, okay, so let's start back at the beginning, anyways. What's the difference between a Squiggoth and a regular Squig?
Okay, a Squiggoth is generally something that's bred to the size of about a Leman Russ tank or even larger, to the size of a small Titan. So this thing is made to be just a war beast.
Okay. So it's not okay. So I was thinking the Squiggoths, anyways, like the smallest form of it would be the ones that, like, for instance, the beast snaggers right into battle.
No, those are Squig hogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if they were like a form of Squiggoth, anyways, they'd be like the smallest would be a Squig hog, right?
If they were part of the Squiggoths, yes,
Okay.
but they aren't.
Right. So then you mentioned, anyways, that the Colossal Squig is part of this Squiggoth family. So where is it, anyways, size-wise? Because I thought the biggest one you could get anyway, the biggest the Squig could get anyways was the Colossal Squig.
Okay, so generally there are 3 different sizes that they've put down for Squiggoths. There are the big ones, which is about the size of a Leman Russ tank.
Right.
Which means they are more something you probably see for transport and stuff like that.
They're kind of like the wagons.
Then you have the gargantuan Squiggoths, which
Okay.
are about the size of a small Imperial Titan.
Okay. That's a bit large.
Yeah.
So when you say Titan, though, you're talking about probably like what, a Warhound?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Okay, yeah. I mean, they're definitely not. Oh, what's the big one?
Warlord.
The what?
Warlord.
Yeah, no, but the Imperium, they've got one that's like, it's the Adeptus Mechanicum's like largest Titan they ever created, and it's like ridiculously big.
Sorry, like it's the Mega Gargant. No.
Yeah, no, wrong race. Okay, so that's the second size. So then the third size is something even bigger than that.
Yes, it is actually the Orkoids, and it is even larger than the gargantuan Squiggoth. Rarely seen, obviously.
Okay. So where does the Colossal Squig fit in? So is the Colossal Squig actually a Squiggoth?
No.
Oh, I thought you were saying that it was, though.
But they aren't Squiggoths.
Oh, okay. Okay, why did you say that they were? Okay, so from what I've gathered, though, Colossal Squigs are, I mean, this says, anyways, from what I've looked up, that they're the largest variant, anyways, of Squig known to exist. So I guess my question is then, are Squiggoths really actually a Squig? Or are they like their own weird, different thing?
So the way that I've seen it, as Colossal Squig is, okay, Squiggoths are almost their separate own category. Colossal Squigs are basically the largest 2-legged things, Squigs.
Okay.
So
Squiggoths then really aren't really Squigs then, is what you're saying.
they're technically in the Squig family, but not.
Technically, orcs are in the Squig family too. But
Yeah.
So this is just another variant, anyways, of the Orkoid species then.
Yes.
Okay.
They are
right.
considered, they are under the heading of what a Squig is.
Say that again.
Squiggoths are under the same heading as Squigs because they start off as just small Squigs, and then when they're bred and how they're bred is what makes them increase in size and change into Squiggoths, basically.
So how does that work?
You'd have to ask an orc rent herds.
Okay. This is just a nice way of saying you don't know.
No, there's a specific way. It's just
okay. Well, while you're looking that up, anyways, I do kind of want to go into an actual Squig, and they're called hair Squigs. So anytime you see like a picture of an orc, and it's got hair or a beard or something like that, it's actually a Squig, because orcs actually are hairless. They do not have any hair, which I've always found interesting. But they do like, apparently anyways, it's a sign of status anyways to have some sort of hair. So they get these squigs anyways that, how do they work? They're a parasitic variety of squig which possesses small bodies, no legs, no eyes, and a pair of pincers in place of a mouth. They have long hair running from their tiny bodies that the orcs like to customize and dye after clamping the squig's pincers into their own hairless heads, though this customization has no effect on the squig's health. So they literally, anyways, it's anytime you see an orc, that's got hair, they're really wearing a wig, and that wig is a squig. It's probably the best way of describing it. And Yusken, you mentioned this a few when we were looking up all this stuff, anyways, and having a good chuckle. But they also use them as beards occasionally.
Yeah.
But most of the time, when you see them, anyways, it's on the back of the hair or on top of the head. And normally, from what I've seen, anyways, it's almost like a top knot, right?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah. So it's not like they put like a whole bunch of them on there, anyways, and they stylize them up. Although I have seen a couple, anyways, orcs that do sport the rather cool looking, anyways, mohawk.
Yeah.
But normally, anyways, it's very vibrant. They dye them all sorts of different colors because, as we know, the orcs love their colors and their different types of colors. And they have. Speaking of which, by the way, Yusken, I actually happen to find a couple more colors that are important to the orcs that the log energy runs through. Would you like to know about them real quick before we move on?
So long as you let me, after that, tell you what the difference is.
Oh,
I mean, how about Squiggoths?
Yeah, for sure. I was just trying to buy a little time here, anyway, so that you could actually look it up for me. I appreciate you looking it up. Yeah. So the other two colors that I found is we talked about last week, anyways. There's we talked about what? Red, yellow, blue, and purple, right? So the other two colors that we have white and black. And black, anyways, they paint like armor and stuff black because it's supposed to make things tougher than anything else. So it's like really good for defense. And then white is a deadly color, the deadliest color out there. Oh, I forgot. We also talked about green, but yeah. So that's why, like, for instance, and we will talk about these guys here in a little bit, anyways. But the Goth, they a lot of times, anyways, will use checkered white and black because it makes them the hardest, toughest, deadliest orcs in the galaxy, or so they think. But anyways, yeah, go ahead and tell us, anyways, about how this whole thing with the Squiggoths work.
Okay, so Squiggoths are defined as the largest species of squigs. Colossal Squigs, no idea where they fall in. I assume because they have two legs, they'd be considered the largest bipedal squig species.
Okay. The Squiggoths are squigs.
Squiggoths are squigs.
Okay.
And but they can go from the size of a Leman Russ tank to
giant titans.
Giant titans and even, giant titans. And so generally how they are
I could just see, anyways, the ship flying through space, anyways. It's almost like Terran 42 Star Wars. When the guy's like, it's like, we'll try heading towards that moon. That snow moon. And it's just this giant Squiggoth that's floating through space.
No, I just would find it funny. Like on the battlefield, there's this giant titan. It's like, yes, we spent years building this, and all of a sudden it crashes through the canyon on the other side, something about the same size. It's a Squiggoth. This took 1 year.
I could just see, anyways, like the largest Squiggoth ever, anyways, is literally just this giant squig that floats through space, anyways, and just eats whatever it comes across. It's the size of the Death Star. So, get away before it eats us.
Actually, originally they're created through a diet.
What's that?
Diet originally.
A squig diet? They eat squigs?
A particular combination in the food that they're given. And then over time, they end up being handed over to the runt herds, which are basically the orcs versions of breeders and trainers when it comes to squigs, and also grots for that matter.
So, by the way, anyways, at that point, anyways, are they also known anyway? At that point, they're what? Cave squigs, right?
No, cave squigs are different.
Okay, so what I guess what
Okay,
I'm
cave
asking is,
squigs are just considered attack squids in general.
I mean, they're kind of the standard squig, right? I mean, they eat them, they herd them to attack people, they live in caves,
Yeah.
I guess. But no, what I'm saying is that so okay, so the squig life, anyways. It starts off as this little tiny squig, and it's just, this red thing with a tail and 2 feet, and then a bunch of teeth. Well, they keep feeding it, and it gets bigger, right? Till eventually, anyways, it becomes this happy, healthy cave squig thing, or attack squig, or whatever you want to call them.
Or
But then,
whatever it is that they're breeding it as.
so then they continue breeding it, anyways, and then the way and what they feed it changes, anyways, when it goes from there.
As well as I can tell, yes. But they
Okay.
don't go from squig to cave squig to whatever. They go from squig to whatever. It's just most commonly used is the cave squig because it's used for just like an attack thing or as a pet or as food. So it's the most numerous squig that you'll find out there because,
It's the most common.
it's,
Okay.
it's a weapon and nutrients.
So, okay. So I just want to make sure that I've got this clarified outright. Okay. So every squig starts off as a mushroom, right? With teeth.
Yeah, like everything else that's orcoid.
Well, kind of. And it gets herded around, anyways, by the snotlings until it starts to get bigger. When it gets bigger, anyways, the runt herders take over and they kind of determine what kind of squig it is. And then they start its diet, which really changes it into what it needs to be.
As far as I can tell, yes.
Oh,
Of
that's
course,
that.
I could be wrong, but
Interesting. Well, no, that's just kind of that puts it in a whole new perspective. Anyways, you are what you eat.
Well, here's the thing, though. For example, of course, I may be wrong because we are not who shall not be named, but it makes more sense because there's different runt herders, which sometimes can be called, especially when it comes to Squiggoths, specialist breeders, pig docs.
Pig dogs.
Which are actually pretty much the only people that are able to raise Squiggoths, and they're part of the Snakebites clan.
Oh,
which we will be talking about later.
Right. Well, so I think we've done Squiggoths to death, but we did mention, anyways, the cave squigs, and they are the most common, right? Yes. They go by many different names. They go by cave squigs, attack squigs, eating squigs. Could you kind of give us, anyways, how they kind of fit into the orcoid ecosystem?
They are a vicious predator, and pretty much they just look like teeth on 2 legs, pretty much. Generally are seen as the attack squig, which is what they're more known as. But they have them as not only for like charging forward or as using it as attack weapon, but also as having them as pets or as a food supply. So they're sort of I guess they're common because of the fact that they have so many multiple uses in comparison to the other ones.
Okay. So the ones that we've talked about, the Squiggoths, the hair squigs, and then the cave squigs, anyways, those are kind of the most numerous of the squigs, right? Other than maybe Squighogs. I mean, Squighog, well, and it depends on, anyways. I mean, like, for instance, you mentioned the snake bites. Squighogs are more predominant with the squig bites, or not squig bites, the snake bites. Right?
Hey, several of them have been bitten by squigs. You gotta know that.
Right. They thought snakes were cooler, so they went with snakes instead of squigs. But
well, we'll get further into this sort of topic later when we talk about them. But
right. But like I said, anyways, the squig hogs, anyways, are more predominant with like what we've already talked about, the beast snaggers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But other than them, anyways, the 3 that we've kind of talked about, they are the squigs that normally when you're talking about squigs, that's kind of what you're looking for. So it's like if it's a big squig, it's a squiggoth. If it's just kind of the regular red, two-legged, teeth thing running around, that's kind of a cave squig or an attack squig or an eaten squig. I mean, it's the same thing. And then the hair squigs are definitely, anyways, I mean, they're very numerous, but nobody really talks about them because nobody cares. They're just like, hey, look at my hair. But I do think, anyways, we should talk about a couple of the less known squigs. And one of my favorite squig, anyways, is called the squig pipe. Now, I don't know if you knew this, Yukson, or not, but the orcs actually do enjoy music, which is something that is not talked about very often.
Well, I mean, there's the goth rocka.
Oh, what's a goth rocker? Real quick, I know we're kind of going sidetracked, but what is it?
He's a rock guitarist that followed with Gazgul Thraka.
Oh, wait a minute. Is he the guy with the top hat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he has a particular squig with him too. It's called an imp squig.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, so he can make his music more even predominant. But the squig pipe, the thing I like about the squig pipe is that it is the common musical instrument, probably other than, I'm thinking the drum, right? The drum's got to be the most predominant musical instrument for the orcs.
I don't know.
Probably made from the skins, anyways, of squigs. This is a weird type of squig, and they use it as a musical instrument. It's got several tube, like proboscises, that emanate from the squig's bag-like body. The musical squig can be tucked under one arm and inflated by blowing down the proboscis. Then, by squeezing the squig, weird and terrifying sound can be made through the creature's proboscis pipes. This turns the squig into a musical instrument. Now, what does this sound like to you, Yukson?
A really bad version of bagpipes.
Yep, that's pretty much what it is. But the worst part is that it's 1,000 times louder. So for all of you that hate bagpipes anyways, this would be the worst. I mean, me personally, I'm a fan of the bagpipes. If they're played correctly, bagpipes, I think, are one of the cooler instruments you can find.
Yeah.
But if they're played incorrectly, which, by the way, I'm thinking that lots of orcs, anyways, don't play them correctly. These squigs, I think they just want the noise, which would be even worse. It'd be like somebody beating a cat to death, anyways, but doing it 100 times louder. But before we move on, anyways, what do you think of these guys?
Actually, I think it's more likely that they would have the grots use them instead of the orcs.
Oh, really?
Because they're probably more attuned to actually
their
using
fingers
it.
would probably work better for it too. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe we should look into that. Maybe we could find, anyways, a Gretchin band. Maybe we can get them over here, anyways.
Because
they can do some music for us.
most orc bands, the few that there are that I've seen, either pertain having drums or guitars of some kind.
Right. I've always kind of wondered, anyways, what they would do if they ran into the what do they call them? They're the Slaanesh Chaos Space Marines, the
Noise Marines.
Noise Marines. Yeah, if they ran into a Noise Marine, how that would work out. It'd be like the battle of the bands. Anyways, do you have a particular weird squig that you'd like to talk about?
Okay, so you're aware of the Terran birds known as a pigeon, right?
Yes. What do they call them? They're like what, trash with wings or something like that. This is what they're kind of known as. They're a really dumb bird, anyways, that lives in large cities and
yet
tend to eat trash.
They also use them for carrying messages, but
okay, they used to do that back in the day in Terran 42. You're correct.
Yeah. Well, the orcs have the squidgen, which is basically the same thing.
Oh,
They
no.
actually use these bird-like squigs, attach messages to them, and send them off for communication with other orc tribes.
Okay. You know, by the way, in Terran 42, anyways, the concept of using pigeons. At the same time, this was before, you know, I don't know, radios and walkie-talkies. All of which, by the way, the orcs have. They have
Yes.
ways of communicating with each other, but they still tend to use these squidgens.
Yep.
Okay.
So they are preyed upon ferociously by these Squiggoths.
Oh, yeah, okay. So they're almost like a new form of they're also like a form of entertainment. Like they throw it
Probably.
out there and then they
Yeah.
get the hawks after them. By the way, dear God, you said squig hawks?
Yes.
What's a squig hawk? Is it like a hawk from Terran 42? But it's a
Except
squig.
for Squig.
Jeez. I'm just picturing these weird mushrooms anyways, but I'm thinking of them like, you know, like a cave squig, but they've got like the little tiny wings. The pigeon, the squidgens. It's like fly. It's like trying really hard, you know. Squigs are fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
On the mention of fun, I'm pretty sure there's one that is for great entertainment for orcs.
yeah, and they're weird. Those that
Okay,
you're talking about
what
the
squig is
squigs,
not weird?
You have a great point there, Yusken. But you're talking about the kissing squig, right?
Kissing squig, face eater squig, or gnasher
Yeah.
squig.
Yeah. They're so imagine anyways a cave squig, right? But give it even more teeth. That's a face eater squig. And they're also known as gnashers or gnasher squigs. They're a lot of times used, they're a lot of times kept as pets by the orcs, but they also like to use them in this weird game. And it's they gamble on it with teeth. They, you know, they they just sit there and laugh as people compete in this weird game anyways. And it's the whole concept is that which one gets eaten, the gnasher squig or the orc. And how this works is that the orc and the squig both open their mouths and bite, kind of like in a parody of a kiss. Why I asked if Yukes and you were talking about the kissing squig. And so they both open their mouths as wide as they can, anyways, and then they bite down on what's in front of them. If the orc eats the squig, he wins. If he keels over backwards, he loses, and usually, anyways, is eaten by the squig amongst much laughter from the other orcs. It's a rather violent game. I haven't heard of any like champions of this game. Or it's not like Terran 42 anyways, where it's like you've got Joe Montana. No. There is no Joe Montana for the squig eating competition. Because normally, eventually, what ends up happening is that you find a squig anyway that's got a bigger mouth. And it eats you. So well, it's been fun discussing squigs. We do have to move on to the next lowest on the totem pole. The snotlings.
Don't you mean the grots?
You've brought something up that's actually fairly interesting, and we have been, honestly, folks, me and Yukson, Yukson and I, have been arguing about this anyways for like the last 3 or 4 weeks anyways. What is a snotling, grot, and Gretchin? Because we've seen these words anyways interused throughout most of orcish lore. And, well, we've come up with a couple of different conclusions, but what's the one anyways that you think is probably most predominant there, Yukson?
Okay, so what I see as the most predominant is looking into it as snotlings are almost they're smaller than grots, and as such they're more used for like helping raise squigs originally. Then you have grots, which are the next step up from that. And from what I can tell, is Gretchin is more of a title than an actual species.
Okay, so like Gretchen though are like the larger form of a grot.
No, Gretchin are like a particular, because you have, for example, Mechpoys have grots. They don't have Gretchin. They have grots to help them. The orderlies, the docks, are called grots, not Gretchin. Now, in a runt herd, generally they refer to those, the ones that are in a runt herd, as Gretchin.
Although they also refer to them as snotlings.
They also do refer to them also as grots, but that's the most common place that you hear them mentioned as Gretchin. So it seems more like if it's the title of Gretchin is put in place where
so what
grot is actually in a militant role, so to speak.
A grot's in a militant role, or a Gretchen?
A Gretchin would be a grot that's in a militant role. So, like, for example, instead of the person with the wrench,
right,
the person with the gun.
Okay, so which one's got the gun? Which one's got the wrench? So if I go into an Orkoid tribe anyways, and I'm looking anyways, and there's two, which, by the way, one of the reasons why anyways we mentioned that these names are a lot of times synonymous or interchanged is because if you look at these technically they're three different species, but if you look at them anyways, they all look the same. They all look like goblins. I mean, except for the only thing that is a little bit different is the snotlings, and it's just simply because they look exactly the same, but they're smaller.
Yeah.
But if I go into an Orkoid tribe anyways, and I see one of these things anyways with a wrench, and then I see another one with a slugga. Which one's
the slugga would be the one that you'd probably call a Gretchin.
Okay. And then the grot would be the one anyways that's got the wrench normally. Yeah. Okay. Now, mind you, also
you're an orc and then you don't care either way. It's like you're smaller, you're a grot. I don't care.
Right.
Unless you're a runt herd. Then the runt herd may go, yeah, you're one of my boys, so you're actually a Gretchin. Go.
Also, real quick, anyways, just to give you kind of a concept, anyways, of what these creatures look like. Well, first off, they're about what? The tallest they get is about 3 feet tall.
I want to say around there. Give me a sec. Probably have. They're around about 4 feet or so.
Okay, so the tallest they get is about 4 feet.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, so I'm guessing then that snotlings probably only get about 2 feet tall then. Because they're,
2 or 3.
What's that?
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3. Okay, so by the way, that is the only way you can kind of see the difference of that different particular part of the species is that snotlings are significantly smaller. They look the same, but they're just smaller. Yeah. Now, these particular species, anyways, they're kind of spindly. They're not like their orcish cousins, anyways, that are big, brawny, beefy dudes. They're like thin and spindly, and they normally have very beaky noses. Also, I don't think they can also grow hair either, do they?
No,
they're bald too.
But they don't go for any hair squigs, really, generally. So
yeah, and they are also like everything else, other than the squigs. Anyways, they're green. By the way, we never did mention this, but squigs are red normally.
Well, some of them are.
Okay, the majority of them are red, and normally, like I said before, anyways, the Gretchin, the snotlings, the Gretchin, and the grots, anyways, they're normally used for like menial purposes. They're the ones, anyways, that like fit into tight spaces, anyways, to work on mechanical issues. They're the ones that kind of run the ecosystem while the orcs are out, crumping.
Yeah.
But there have been a few actually important ones, and probably the most famous Yusken has got to be Makari, right?
Yeah. Well, he is relative.
Yeah.
There is a grot that follows Gazgul Thraka.
Yeah.
Whose name is Makari. Now, mind you, don't know which one it is now.
Well, okay, that's an interesting aspect. Okay, so real quick, anyways, Macarai is like Yurkson said, anyways. He's Uthraka's minion. He's been around anyway since Uthraka started, his grand campaign, anyways, of the Great Wog. And he's been around that long, anyways, because he's been considered lucky, and he in fact carries, anyways, the standard of the mighty war boss, which they dubbed the Lucky Stick. Now, the Imperium would say, anyways, that he died a while back, anyways, because the Orc war boss didn't realize he was there and sat on him, which could very well be true. But he keeps showing back up on the battlefield. So there's this interesting debate on whether one of two things are taking place. Either A, Uthraka, while he thinks of this grot as lucky, has never really particularly paid attention to him. So every time one of them dies, one of his weird boys or one of his strategists just shovels another one in and goes, "Oh yeah, he's here." So they just keep replacing him. Or two, which is more of a weird concept, anyways, is that he keeps being reincarnated by the Great Wog energy from Gork and Mork, because he supposedly has this important role, anyways, to help the great prophet Uthraka. Now, me and Yukson have been discussing this back and forth, and I think both of us kind of agree, anyways, that it's more along the lines that, for intents and purposes,
passes away.
Yeah, for intents and purposes, Makari does keep dying, and they keep shoveling in a new one. It's like, your new name now is Makari. I don't want to be Makari. I don't care. But I do kind of like this other story. I do find it kind of interesting. Just the thought, anyways, that Gork and Mork, that they keep reincarnating this grot just to be a nuisance. To me, anyways, that's also kind of entertaining. But I mean, what do you think, Yukson?
I think it's the former, though, where whenever one of them dies, either from being stepped on by accident, sat on,
Right,
random shell,
sucked
and then
into
it's
that
just like,
weird
oh
current.
no, and they sneak in a new one.
Yeah.
Because they know if they don't, then Gazgul will probably lose his mind. I mean, go into ridiculous rage, I should say.
Right. Well, and there is one other notable grot, or Gretchin, whatever you want to call him, and that would be, I believe his title is the Red Gobbo.
Yes. The Red Gobbo is the leader of the rebel Grots on Gorka Morka and is the head of the Gretchin Revolution Committee, or the GRC for short, or just the committee. In truth, there technically is no Red Gobbo.
What?
The position actually rotates between various members of the committee after an election.
Okay. Okay, you can humor me. How does this election work? Did you ever figure that out? Because we tried figuring it out, but did you actually did you actually go down there and do some research yourself?
I think I found it out. What ends up happening is they do the whole draw straws thing. But the person who's holding the straws is actually cheating.
Okay.
So they all grab one, and he goes, "Oh, look." And he snaps the end of his off. Mine's shorter. And since he's the last person, it's not like they can go, "You cheated." No.
Well, I mean, they could. But...
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that this election, the way it works, is that whoever's holding the sticks is the one that actually becomes the new Red Gobbo.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds very.
I can tell, anyways.
That sounds very democratic.
I mean, they do have very small hands, you know.
Yeah. Fair enough. Carry on about this Red Gobbo fella.
Anyways, he leads the Grots in their effort to overthrow the oppression of the orcs in the Revolution. At some point, however, knowledge of the Red Gobbo has spread from Gorkamorka to the wider orc species, and While not every Gretchin believes in the Red Gobbo, with some claiming he is just a legend, this quickly changes for most Grots should one appear before them.
That is so stupid. Like, I don't believe in it. And then it shows up. Okay, maybe I do.
Well, I guess it is
Yeah.
true because it's here.
Yeah. It's like, I don't believe in dachshunds. Oh, what's that? It's a dachshund. Okay, fair enough.
I guess they exist. In one instance, the Gretchin Fingwit decided to become the Red Gobbo and rallied his fellow Grots during a boarding attack on Imperial warship. And in another, Red Gobbo suddenly appeared while a group of Grots were being attacked by chaos cultists and helped lead them to victory over their foes. This Red Gobbo was fatally wounded during the fighting, though, and secretly chose a clever Grot by the name Red Snot to pass the mantle to. When Red Snot initially declined, the Red Gobbo angrily stated that a Gretchin could not refuse to become the Red Gobbo once they were chosen. He also claimed that the committee was wherever a Red Gobbo needed it to be, and that it could simply be used as a tool to reinforce a Red Gobbo's orders to his fellow Gretchin. Red Snot then agreed and began putting on the dying Red Gobbo's clothing and took on his personality as well. When he next appeared to his fellow surviving Grots, the Red Gobbo stated that Red Snot had died in the battle's last moments. Because of this widespread knowledge of the Red Gobbo, his appearance can differ each time he appears. In general, though, the Red Gobbo wears a red coat and goggles, along with a custom slugga. He has also been seen with a scepter riding a squig named Bouncer, wearing a commissar's hat, and carrying a Red Gobbo battle standard. However, if more than one Red Gobbo appears, then the Great Squig Race is used to determine who the revolutionary leader is. They ride atop Squigs, and the winner is declared to be the real Red Gobbo. After all, there can only be one revolutionary Gretchin leader at a time. Well, at least in one place.
Right.
As we know. Now, this all started when the mechs recently introduced a tag system on Gorka Morka, whereby you can only get on board the Space Hulk once construction is completed, when the big wah starts. If you have a tag, unfortunately, Grots don't get tags. Due to this unfair treatment, the GRC was formed, and soon a full-scale revolution began against the Grots in Mechtown. The Red Gobbo is the figurehead for the whole revolutionary movement. Although he concerns himself with the revolution as a whole, it is not uncommon for him to get out and do a bit of dirty work.
Well, he sounds very interesting. Do you ever think that he'll actually eventually win the great revolutionary thing that he's trying with the GRC?
Not likely.
Or maybe, if, like you said, it is true anyways about Makari. What happens if the new Makari anyways ends up being the Red Gobbo?
That would never happen, trust me.
It would be so awesome, though. Well, it would be very short.
Yeah.
It would be the Red Gobbo going, for the revolution, and try to attack Uthraka, and Uthraka would look at him and then probably step on him.
Now, my dear listeners, unfortunately we're out of time for this box, but we had so much more, and that is why this is actually part 1. Tune into part 2, which is labeled The Great Clans. For those of you who don't have the time to listen to part 2, I hope you enjoyed this box. If you did, please like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And for those of you who do have the time, enjoy the second part of the box.